And away we go. Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Jeff, Junior Hockey Live tonight. Wrong broadcast, wrong time. Let's bring the other man in. Let's bring in Bloomer. Let's put him in there. Hi Bloom, what's up?
Hey Jeff, how's vacation going?
I'm here. I'm no vacation. I'm working right now. Tell me
Well,
I'm on
that's true.
vacation. I'm sitting here talking to you. You think I'd talk to you on vacation?
Yes, I do. I
Yeah.
actually do.
Well, we have actually talked several times in the last couple of days. I guess I can't get away from you there. Well, welcome everybody. This is Junior Hockey Live. We talk every Wednesday, except we'll be slowing down for the summer here and picking back up late August. I think we'll do one more after the NAHL draft, and then we'll pick up right after that. So the draft is on the 12th. What day of the week is the 12th? Is it Tuesday?
Wednesday maybe.
Wednesday? Okay, so we'll probably, I don't know, will we be able to broadcast right after the draft? That's going to be tough.
It might have to put the way that draft bleeds on. We might have to, if we go live, have to go later in the day because that thing. I think it starts normally around like 12 or 1 o'clock, and it'll
Yeah.
go till 6 p.m. for sure.
Yeah, so why don't we do that? We'll plan on going next week, but we'll do a special edition late one. We'll put a message out for everybody on that so they know what time I'll be broadcasting. Before I go any further, I just put in the notes or in the comments, maybe you guys can see it. Tell me if you can. I'll just post it again. Here is a link to Restream. If you click on that link, you can set your Facebook up to the Restream, which allows us to see your name instead of just Facebook user. So I know a lot of you, when we talk to you, we're saying, hey, we don't know who you are. And you're like, well, you should know me. I've posted 38 times in the last 2 weeks. Well, now you can just click that link. It'll set it up so you can actually, in fact, already, just so you know, look at this. We saw the link. It's coming through. And that's awesome. And we've actually seen people as they're putting their comments on now. What a big change, man. Technology. I
I
love it.
like it, and I honestly can see the comments on the right hand side from Matt. So that's a first for me. So something's working.
Well, I can't tell you that I know technology. Might know a little bit about hockey. So anytime you want to step up and start fixing this stuff yourself there, Bloomy, you can.
I
Okay.
think I know less about both hockey and technology than you do. So I don't know if you're putting me in the
Oh,
right spot.
okay. So, hey Matt, thanks for telling us you're watching on YouTube. That's really cool to know that it's. We know we broadcast our YouTube channel, but it's nice to know that you can do your comments through there too. So very cool. We've just made a big step in our technology, and hopefully, who knows? Maybe in the next week or two we'll have some more announcements for technology coming up. We'll see as we go along. So tonight, what we do is we open this up for you. We've got a small audience right now. We usually build as we go along. But if you have any questions about the time of year, the process, you got questions about teams, leagues, how things are coached at different levels, this is the night for you. We'll fill in with some banter. We'll talk about some things that happened this last week. But in the meantime, if you've got specific questions you want to ask, just go ahead and ask. Type them in. If you just want to say hi, and tell us where you're from. We'd love to see those kind of things come across the screens too. And that's it. Jump on, tell us what's going on in your world of hockey, or just say hi, or throw us a question. We'd love to get involved and interact with you tonight. That's why we're here, is to give you a little bit of insight and feedback from two guys that do this quite a bit. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about your week. Tell us a little bit about you and I talked about not getting into the weeds, but people are going to want to know. We can't just ignore the fact that we did our pre-draft, and I wasn't there. I had to attend a wedding with some rival Null teams that are in my family, which is never fun. But anyway, the wedding went well on my end. Tell me a little bit about how the pre-draft skate went.
Yeah. So I think I'm still feeling the effects of the weekend. For those that have done this before, and probably even some of the kids and the families who were in the pre-draft camp, I mean, those are long days, and it's a lot of fun. But being in an ice cold rink for probably 6 to 8 hours straight because they're just game after game after game after game, and then obviously going back to the hotel and basically working more and trying to get everything finalized for what the team's going to look like for next year. It takes a lot out of you. Of course, there's always going to be a little bit of time for some pops and some interaction amongst the staff and the coaches and whatnot each night. So that kind of keeps you up later, and they're quick turnarounds. But the camp overall was awesome. Being able to see these kids go out there in an unstructured environment, and get to see kids from all over the place come in and play with not only the kids here locally in Chicagoland area, but we had kids from New York, we had kids from other countries, Sweden, Finland, maybe Czech, Finland and Sweden for sure, possibly Slovak, and it's just cool to see how these kids come out and perform. The one thing that I'll say that in a previous podcast that we talked about having hotel issues, and we talked about different things that just kind of pop up at an event that a staff is going to have to kind of work through. That it seems to happen every year. One that's been something we haven't experienced before, but we had a handful of kids that signed up, registered for camp, paid their money. We obviously send out all the communication of when the games are, which team you're on, all these different things. And they no called, no showed. So they essentially ghosted the event. And I can't tell you how that throws a corkscrew into things because, number one, you're getting to the registration table and you're basically seeing a handful of kids who haven't checked in. So obviously we're going to make sure we call them and say like, hey, are you stuck in traffic? Or, sometimes kids, because you're starting during the day, they had school and they just got out late. So they're trying to hustle to get there, but they're going to end up being there for the weekend. This year we had a handful of kids that when we called, never answered, parents or kids, and they just ghosted the weekend. So the thing that causes problems is we try to balance out the team. So you're putting guys on, if we had 6 teams, we're trying to make all 6 of those teams equal so they're competitive. And next thing you know, you don't have a goalie, or you don't have a couple defensemen on that team. You got to shuffle everything
not
at the
cool.
last minute.
Yeah, not cool. It's don't get me wrong. There's always going to be a family issue, an injury, miscommunication. But if you're ghosted at camp, and this happens at the USHL, happens with us at the NAL level, happens at every level. We tried to figure it out. Is this families that are just hedging their bets so they sign up for several camps on the same weekend? Is it families that just flat out forgot? Is it a kid that had mom's credit card, registered himself and then realized that mom and dad aren't going to let him go that weekend and just, oops, didn't say anything to anybody? I mean, I don't know why people do this or what the intent is, but it does put a lot of pressure on all camps and all, pre-drafts, draft camps, main camps, or just any other camps. So, this is one of those things where, of course, you can't get on here and lecture and tell people not to do it because that doesn't really make sense. We're not here to lecture anybody, but we can tell you the effects, and we can tell you it's not cool from our end, and it doesn't help your teammates, and it does give you potentially a black eye with a team. And remember the incestual side of hockey. I might be here today, but I might be the head coach of the team that you want to play for tomorrow. And that's the way things work. And everybody knows everybody, and things are shared. So don't put yourself in that situation if all possible. Now, if you got a legitimate reason, or even if you just flat out change your mind, at least get out and communicate. Send that text, send that email, make the phone call, and let somebody know in the organization that that's the case and the way things are going. So, well said. Let's say hi to a few people now. Mike, you're seeing these comments now on the sideboard too. All comments, or what do you see? Okay.
Well, I can see. I don't know if they're all comments because I know there's a couple different platforms that people can comment from, but right. I'm seeing quite a few of them.
So once again, I'm going to post on the screen so everybody has the ability to see this. If I can remember how to do it from here, I will post and let people actually jump on. And there we go. The link I'm putting on right now will allow you to, if you click on this link, if it says Facebook next to your quote, it just shows the F. Now you can click on this link and you can set it up so that you'll actually show up as a person. And we just don't go, hey, Facebook user, great job. So, hey, New Brunswick, good to see you there. Question came in. I'll get to the question in a second. Greetings from Flint, Michigan. Good to see you. I wonder if that's my cousin. Can't tell. She's a big fan of the Flint area. Junie's back. He says he was down in Memphis, and so he hasn't been here. Good to see you back, Junie. Then we've got, check this out. You said something about Australia, and all of a sudden, boom.
Wow.
Australia, or is that Australia or Austria? That's Australia. Okay. See, in my age, you got to get in there and really look at words to make sure. I got glasses on too. It's terrible, man. Okay, here's getting back to Matt. Matt says, does it matter what camp do you go to? Have a coach who has invited my son to multiple teams, 15-year-old to multiple teams. Okay, so the question is, does it matter which camp you go to? At 15, if you get invited to a USHL camp at 15, it means something, and I'd probably go to a USHL camp at 15 if you get invited. That makes sense. Now, if you're getting invited to pre-draft camps at 15 for the North American Hockey League, my way of looking at the world is I'd go to the best team on paper. Just that's the flat out best way I can put it. They probably are more organized. They've probably got a system set up to keep players in the loop that they're watching or invited. You go to some teams that aren't as organized, a 15-year-old might get lost in the weeds by the time 18 years old runs around. So you want a team that can track you, a team that has a professional relationship. It's just much easier when you got a team that's in. How do you tell who the better teams are? Who's consistently in the top? That's honestly the easiest way to tell who's got the best management. You don't randomly show up there, and you can't just show up with a good group of kids one year. It might work once, but you need a good coach. You need a good assistant coach. You need a good management style. You need a good fan base. You need good scouts in the field. All this stuff works together. So if it were me and I were going to pick one, I'd pick one at the tier 2 level with the best reputation possible. So, and those teams are easy to figure out. There's a really good team in every division. Some divisions have 2 or 3 good teams that are always consistently good. That's it. Now, if you're talking about across the board between different leagues, there's a big difference between an individual team, pre-draft skate, and a league pre-draft skate. What I mean by that is a league pre-draft skate is information that's collected by the league. It may not necessarily, you might not necessarily get on the radar of the coaches from every team because, it's a scouted event. Yes, there's a lot of scouts there from the, the NUL or the NCDC or the USHL, whatever level you're using a generic, league camp. But the one thing bad about league camps, it gets you on the mailing list of all the teams. That's good. That's the reality of it is you get put on a mailing list for all the teams. They have access to you. There's film on you, and many of, if not most of the teams will watch the film of the showcase if they did not have somebody live there. And if they have somebody live there, that's also good. But not every team, not all 30 teams or whatever we've got now, attend these league showcases. Why? Because some of them are still in playoffs. So some are still playing. They don't have the ability to get their staff there because they're trying to win a Robertson Cup. So I guess the bottom line is, if I were going to go to a league event, I'd go to a league that I know I'm suited for first. That always makes sense. You might get invited to the USHL. That's great, and I don't behoove anybody from doing that. Or I don't tell anybody not to do that, I should say. But if I know that the reality is I'm going to be playing at a tier 3 level, I'd really, really want to be at a tier 3 showcase. Mike, usually have different opinions on these than I do. What do you think?
Well, first, I would agree with you where you kind of have to have an understanding of where the ability is of your player. And I say that where, obviously we know the age, in this example, it's a 15-year-old. So if you're playing AAA and you're kind of middle of the pack on your team, it is good to go to a USHL camp because you're going to get that experience and that exposure. But if you're kind of middle to the pack or to the bottom of your AAA roster, or you're a AA player or a high school player, um, your expectations probably shouldn't be that you're going to make the team. It's more, I want to get my name out there. I want to get the experience of being in a camp like this. But I also want to get like a measure of like, where am I compared to some of these elite players, and how far of a gap is it between where they're at and where I'm at. That's something that you can really gain from a camp like that. The other thing is at all of these different USHL camps, you're going to have a lot of null teams in colleges that are also there watching and scouting that event. This coming week, actually starting tomorrow, the Chicago Steel are going to start having their main camp. I will definitely be there to see if there's any kids that might be opportunities for us. Whether it's this next coming season or if it's a couple seasons away. So you're going to get exposure from even outside of the program that you're actually skating in front of. And then the other thing is if you're a 15-year-old and you end up going to, let's say, a North American League team, whether it's a pre-draft or a main camp, I'll give you the example of what we just experienced this past weekend. There was probably 3 kids that were 07s. So I'm not sure if your son is an 08 or an 07, but 07s in the camp that we loved. We thought they looked great. There's somebody that we want to watch over the next year or two because they potentially, could be an asset for our program, when they're ready. But again, if they came into this camp thinking that they're going to make our team, it's just too young of an age for the North American League. So there's a lot that happens when you go to these camps that could work in your favor, but you got to have the right expectations and some patience, along the way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Once in a while, we get on the same page on this stuff. Good question. I really like that question. I think another question popped up here about the CSH. Is it the CSSHL? I think it's the CSSHL. Let me see if I can hear it as. Okay. Do you cover the CSSHL? Yeah. Yes. It's a recruited league, and it's a league that, for those that don't know what the CSSHL is, and I always get it wrong when I say that, the CSHL is the Canadian Sports School Hockey League. So these are the, I think they're across the nation now. I think they go from coast to coast. But it's Bishop College that's in Quebec. It's BWC that's in British Columbia. Uh, Calgary International Hockey Academy is one that's out there now. You got all these different ones, and some of these names you might know that are a little bit more like the Ed School has been around for quite a bit. That's out in Calgary. Now you've got the Indigenous Sports Academy, Mount Academy. These are just a few names I'm throwing out there as I'm looking through the list. Notre Dame Hounds. Everybody knows the Saskatchewan Notre Dame program. And then I always get this one. Is it Okanagan? Is that how you say it? But they've got a couple academies out there too. They're in. I know they've got one in Ontario, and I think it originally started out in either BC or Alberta. And then you got the OHL team, or OHA, the Ontario Hockey Academy. It's out there too. Yes, these are highly scouted programs. Mostly, it's kind of an inverse order on these programs. If you got a really good team that plays in these teams, they're getting scouted by Division One, maybe simultaneously or even before the junior programs get to them, because the Division One guys love to watch this league and they spend a lot of time watching it. Now, regionally, when I say regionally, like I live a couple hours from Toronto, so I'll get to see the Toronto-based teams that are in this league. I'll see OHA play. I'll watch them play, and these teams interact with other leagues. These teams interact with different U.S. prep programs also. So a lot of these teams are well traveled. They spend a lot of time on the road. So yes, they do get looked at. They do get recruited, and there is nothing wrong playing with these academies. But you do your homework just like you do with any other league. There's some of these academies that don't produce many players to the Division One level, or even to the higher junior levels. and there's other ones that are just spot on. They're just time after time after time. They're doing a great job with their recruiting of the players they bring into their program, but also they're doing a good job of output where they're putting players in their outplacement. So how do you do this? I think we've covered this a lot of times on a lot of videos, but it's pretty easy. The reverse engineering of this is you go to elite prospects. Now, I'm in a hotel room. I don't have multiple screens up, and it's very difficult for me to show you on screen how to go about this on elite prospects, but I'll walk you through it. Go to elite prospects, pull up the league that you're interested in. So if it's the CSSHL that you're interested in, pull that league up. Scroll down the page to the first green button on the left, which brings up individual players. When you hit that button, it allows you to go up to the top of the page and put in criteria that you want to search by. So you can search by any players or any leagues that you are currently looking at playing in before you get there. And then they take kids from, they only take kids out of the GHL. Or the GTHL out of the Toronto area, so what kind of players they're looking at that they put in there. Now you'll probably find in most of these academies, they're selective. Some are very regional in their where they pick from. Others are very international in their makeup. So it's up to you to kind of look at those things. Now, to know how well they do, go to the Division I side of things. Go to Elite Prospects, pull up NCAA Division I. Go down, click on the green button on the left, pull up individual players, and that'll give you the screen up on top to sort by. And then you sort by up on there, you put CSSHL in and click the button so it sorts out all the players that are in Division I hockey that have played in this league for any of these teams. Now, that gives you a real good basis of how many guys are out there, what teams are putting players in. And you can do that for juniors too. You can put a certain junior league in. You want to know how many are playing in the BCHL. You want to know how many are playing in the AJ. You want to know the Ontario Junior Hockey League. You want to know the U.S. leagues. You can type in any one of those leagues up on the top of Elite Prospects and then sort by. Now, when I say that, remember, you have to be in the Premier Elite Prospects. You got to pay a few bucks to get that search engine ability so you can reverse engineer. Is it worth it? If there's anything that I can guarantee you is not a money grab, it's that Elite Prospects button. They're not a sponsor yet, Elite Prospects. They're not a sponsor yet, Elite Prospects. Should I say it one more time to get that emphasis out there, or do you think they got it? Because I know they watch. So anyway, I hope that helps. Mike, you got anything to add to that?
No, I just was trying to pull it up real quick on my own side. And it looks like if you look at from that league at the U18 level, how many kids played in that league that end up in Division I? There's about 84 kids that are players and about 9 kids that are goaltenders that end up playing NCAA D1 coming from that particular league at the U18 level.
Okay.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
And there's a couple NHL draft players on this list also. So it's definitely a good league for sure.
And that trick works for any league. You just basically, you should always reverse engineer where you want to go. So if I'm 14 years old and I really, really want to go to University of Wisconsin, okay, the first thing I should be doing as a family is pulling up the University of Wisconsin and looking to where all those players came from, okay? Now, University of Wisconsin, being that it's a Big Ten school, you're most likely going to find that 90% of their roster, and I don't have this in front of me, I'm just telling you how things usually work, 90% are going to come from the USHL. So then the next part of that would be is to step back and go, okay, how do I get to the USHL? Where do they pull their players from? And do the homework there. So you're just looking at every level and working back to put yourself in a situation where, remember, the way I believe the world works in this is put yourself in a situation where statistically the odds work the best for you. Okay, you're always going to hear somebody say, "Yeah, but my cousin Bernie had a friend that made it all the way to NHL and he never played past Bantam House." Okay, sure. Okay, it happens. There's always that guy out there that made it through the system. Now, do you want to be the 1 in a million, or do you want to be the one that makes it with the way 80 or 70 or 60% of players make it? And the answer is you want to be where the statistics are in your favor. Period. That's just the world works that way. If I want to go to Harvard, I'm probably not going to go to the worst possible school possible to try to get there. If I want to go to Harvard, I want to go to the best prep school I can, if that's really, really what I want to do. So, does that help?
I like it. Good
Okay.
job.
Let's jump on some other questions. Clearly, they said thanks, Jeff, first. So it must have been
You are
my.
the host. I'm just the talent.
You're just a talent. Okay, Troy asks.
Oh boy.
What are your broadcast times? Let's just take that first. What are our broadcast times? So we try to do this broadcast every Wednesday. For the most part, they're all available on YouTube. You can go to Junior Hockey Live and pull them up on YouTube. You can go to Junior Hockey Advisor and pull them up on YouTube. They're also available on their Facebook discussion, Junior Hockey Advisor's Facebook discussion page. So if you go to YouTube, please just make sure you like and subscribe. I know you hear that hammered to you all the time, but we're on the cusp of getting over that 1,000 on there. Our audience is huge on Facebook, not so huge on YouTube. So we're trying to grow that audience to catch up with our Facebook. So that was the first part of the question. And this,
well, you didn't answer it completely. We're live at 6 p.m. on Wednesdays Eastern Time,
yes.
5 p.m. Central Time.
Nobody cares about the Central Time you live in. Okay.
You're in Central Time right now. So
that's only because I'm on vacation
today, didn't they?
Yeah, I would have been way off on starting this broadcast if you had reminded me. Okay, Troy's second part of the question was, from a scout's point of view, what are your thoughts of a player going to the EHLP, which is the EHL's premier division, from the NA3HL? Does optics look good if observed via elite prospects for that player? Well, there's a lot of things you got to factor in here. What is your overall outcome? Now, the EHL tends to be, remember, there's always two different kinds of leagues. There's a league of ascension in junior hockey, and there's a league of that's it. It all stops right there league. And that's the league where you don't move up and they don't want you to leave and they want to keep you in there. They retain you in there. So the EHL, I don't want to say they try to retain everybody, but it's a closed circuit. Their players funnel there. They keep the majority of the players. They do a really good job. And those players are all focused on Division III hockey. They don't put Division I players out. So if you've already picked out a school, Middlebury, or you picked out a school that's on the East Coast that's a Division III school that your son has just got his heart set on going to, that route is a good route. And if you're younger, it's fine to be playing in Premier and then go to Elite. With that said, the ascension path is going to stop from Premier to the EHL. You're going to stop somewhere between being a Premier player or moving into the EHL. You're not going to get drafted for the most part out of the EHLP. It just doesn't happen, and if it does, it's the anomaly, not the norm. Now let's compare that to playing outside of the EHL, playing the NA3HL. The NA3HL players are you have some built-in guarantees. Now the guarantees are that you're going to get every team inside of the North American Hockey League is going to draft and is going to tender players out of your league by design. That means there's a lot more emphasis to pull kids up. Now, percentage-wise, it changes from team to team because teams can get incentives to get 2 tenders, 3 tenders extra from just the 1 tender. You might see one team put 3 tenders in to that league. So it's just not 1 for 1. In other words, if I'm an NAHL team, at minimum I'm going to get 1 draft and 1 tender that come from the North American 3 League. So does it mean that if you go play NA3HL, you've got a shot at playing in the NAHL? Yes, it does mean you got a shot. But I don't know if the reality is that you're going to do that because I don't know the level and the skill you're playing at. If I were going to shine in one of the two leagues, I'd want to shine in the NA3HL because it exposes you to multiple different leagues that you could potentially go to out of the NA3HL, more so than the Premier, the EHL Premier. There is nothing wrong with the EHL Premier, especially if you want to ascend to the EHL, if that makes sense. If that wasn't clear, let me know. We'll take another shot at it, but Troy, I tried. Mike, you got anything to add to that?
I mean, I would just say that, in my opinion, I think the NA3 is comparable to more of the EHL. As far as like talent for talent.
Yeah.
When you go into the EHLP, then if there's any of the top teams from that particular league, they'd be more comparable to some of the bottom teams of the NA3. So it's if you were in the EHL, it'd be a different conversation of like which of the two leagues is the better route. Um, but if you have the option to play NA3 or your other option is EHLP, I would 100% choose the NA3HL.
Hope that helps. If it doesn't, call Mike personally. I'll give you his phone number. I'll put it in the notes here, and you can discuss it with him personally. Okay. Some of the things I've been seeing on the discussion group deal with this is from the Facebook Junior Hockey Advisor discussion group, which is pushing 10,000 family members now that will head over the next few weeks. Some weeks we get about 150 new people. Some weeks we get about 90, 80. So we're not sure exactly when that big momentous event is going to happen, but we'll have 10,000 there to add to the Facebook page group. We're just tickled to death on the growth of that discussion group. But a lot of questions lately about academies, very similar to what we were talking about there. But the questions were, when I say up there, the CSSHL discussion, that we were asked if that league was scouted, and I answered that as well as I could. But look at these hockey academies across the board. There's some questions coming up on the discussion group on, are they legitimate? Are they worth it? So I used to own Excelsior Academy in Rochester, New York, and it was attached to our two junior teams, our 18 team and our 16 team. And we had the girls programs used to have their players in our academy too. We had one kid in the rink that was a figure skater that just wanted to be able to stay at the rink all day long. So the academy process works if you want to be a rink rat and you want to be at the rink all day. It's a really good thing. If you're looking for diversity and you like to have a green field to go out at lunch to and walk around, or toss a frisbee or something, most likely it's not going to be at an academy because they got a big parking lot usually outside their door. You're not seeing the world the same way. You're really focused on just hockey. I'm not knocking them because I think that they really do play an important part, especially for markets that don't have solid hockey foundations. So you'll see a lot of kids that are good hockey players or aspiring to be good hockey players leave and go to one of these academies because their local area can't support elite hockey, and that's fine. If I were in some places in Arkansas, Missouri, some places that are not as serviced to AAA hockey, to Tier 1 hockey, I would really strongly consider it. And that's why you see some of the markets that have some really good programs. TPH has done a wonderful job. We're not affiliated with TPH, but they do a wonderful job because they've opened up in non-traditional markets. And when they opened up in non-traditional markets, what they did was they allowed players to start developing, and they put coaches in that could actually help kids because they were connected coaches. They knew people. They'd played the game. They played in the junior leagues. They played college. And they got them on the schedule playing against good Tier 1 teams. And as you know, if you're not a good Tier 1 team, it's very difficult to get into that clique. If you're going to tournaments, you're most likely not going to play against Little Caesars if you're a 150 in the rankings because you're not going to get in the same tournament. We all know that kind of stuff. Well, these academies have found ways to knock those walls down a little bit, and they've also found a way to recruit players in. Some of the things you got to look for is, there's 3 different ways that you can go to an academy. In girls hockey, There's an academy in Vermont that's extremely popular. You bring your own books. In other words, you stay in your school and you're homeschooled. You've got to sign off on being homeschooled. So they have a tutor, and when they go to school for the day or they go into their academic sessions, you're studying the same curriculum you'd study if you were in your home school. So you're basically homeschooled, but just not by your parents. The second way you can go to one of these is academies is bring your own school. So the academy is set up, but they really don't have a online program. You sign up with whatever online program you want, and then they give you academic time during the day to sit in a classroom or to sit in a cafeteria, most likely because it's a hockey rink, or you sit in one of the conference rooms and you work on your academics at that time. The third way is the academy actually has an agreement with an online program, and you got to be careful here too, because just because they're affiliated or they've signed up with an agreement with an academy, there's still multiple layers of academy services. Some it's very generic. It's all programmed work. So you go online, you sign in, and when you're done with the timed reading, then you answer generic questions about the chapter, and then you move on to the next. There's no human interaction. Some it's limited human interaction, and others it's always, you're actually sitting in a virtual classroom. You're actually interacting with a teacher all the time, same time every day, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, whatever the class is. And that is more expensive, of course, but it's obviously in most cases the best way to go about it. If you find an academy that does that and still has, certified teachers in the classroom, now just because you're a certified teacher, you might be a certified teacher in English, but you're still a teacher and you still understand how structure works. You can answer simple questions on keeping kids together. So when we were set up, we had interactive classes, so the kids were actually working with teachers online, and we had certified teachers in the classroom live. So when they had questions about their homework, when they had questions about structuring their day, and the biggest part that teacher offered was setting them up for success on how the day went, building their day so that they didn't miss assignments, they didn't miss any kind of testing periods, and that was really successful. So that's really the important part of an academy, is doing your homework to make sure that you're getting what you want. You can do it on the cheap. You can do it on the homeschool method. They all work, and every one of these options are all accredited and accepted by colleges. Even the best colleges in the United States accept these forms of education. But it's really up to you as a parent to know what you're getting into. So hopefully that opened the door a little bit. Mike, you got anything to add?
Well, I just say that you have to know your player, or I should say your kid, a little bit more when it comes to the academic piece, to which of the options that you laid out you think that would be the best for their learning, and go down that path, because everything is a little bit tailored to a specific type of learning style. And I think that's important to kind of know about your kid when you're reviewing those different options. I will say that if one positive thing happened with COVID, it's I think if you would have asked, a room full of people, how many would have considered going the academy route, like the TPH, or some of those other styles of academies, you would have way less people that would have considered it before COVID. And then the fact that a lot of their kids were at home and doing all their schooling through Zoom and tablets and different things like that, now that became a little bit part of what is familiar to them and what the kids had learned off of. So transitioning into something like that rather than going to a brick and mortar school actually is appealing in some senses. And then you add the whole other layer of, there's a lot of frustration out there with parents and whether it be the curriculum or the different things that are happening within their schools. This is now becoming, I hear it all the time now. So it's becoming something that is a lot more of an option for people. And what that reason is, depends on each individual person. But I rarely heard of it before COVID, and now I hear it a lot, and I would probably guess that there's a huge bump that all of these different programs are seeing, like right now, compared to, 5 years ago.
Could be. From my perspective, on the East Coast from Florida all the way up, it was extremely popular. 5, 8, 9 years ago, and I say extremely popular. It was enough that you could have an academy in a building. We were in a fourplex ice rink. We had a lot of teams. We were in a good league at the time. Everything was working well, so it worked for us. The reason we chose to move away from it was we moved away from a junior team, and if you don't have a junior team, in other words, we sold the junior team. If you don't have a junior team, you really, that's where most of your market's going to come from, is your younger junior team. In other words, we had, if it would be the equivalent to having a null team and an NA3 team. And the NA3 team usually is your younger team, and there'd always be 40-50% of your players were using those services. So hopefully that helps a little in the explanation.
Well, I'll just add a couple other points to it, because I
Sure.
think the advantage of it from the hockey side is kind of self-explanatory. You're going to be on the ice doing hockey training type practices during the day when the normal kids are in their actual school, and then you have your team practices and everything at night. Typically, so
Yes.
you're getting double the reps. So that's easy to understand. The cool part about and again, we have no affiliation to any of this, but the cool part of the academic side is, especially if you're doing online schooling, you can get ahead of your classes. In many cases, you can choose the curriculum that interests you, that obviously fit the requirements for graduation and colleges and whatnot. But you get to choose a lot of other courses that, similar to like how you can choose courses in college, but you're doing that now in high school. And it's kind of giving you a little bit more of a understanding of what you might be interested in studying when you do get to college, because of the different courses that you're taking. Also, these kids are typically playing travel or elite level hockey, which means they have to miss a lot of school. Well, when you're doing this type of a schooling, you can miss a day and you're not going to get dinged for attendance and whatever else. You can either get ahead on your homework, or
Yeah, you're
you
not
can catch
missing
up
you're not
later.
missing
You're not
anything,
missing
because
anything.
if you're in
So
a
it doesn't hurt you academically.
if you're in a car or on a bus, you can still be online, you know, in your class. So you should virtually eliminate, no pun intended, eliminate your absences. Um,
Correct.
Here's the negative, though, and be very careful with this part of academies. Academies sell themselves a lot of time on how much extra ice you're going to get by being in the academy. Extra ice is just like anything else. You can't be indulgent in the extra ice. It's good to have a limited amount of extra ice to work on things, but being on the ice 5 days a week, plus doing your practices, plus playing your games all the time, there is no recovery from that if you do that. We learned the hard way. We blocked 2, maybe 3 hours a day aside. Plus, we had skating treadmills and we had shooting rooms with rapid shot, and we had our weight room. And so we learned the hard way that we just could not function having kids on the ice even an hour a day all week long, on top of their practices and on top of their weekend ice. So we learned that we started tempering the amount of times they're on the ice. If they wanted to go out for a stretch in their sweatpants just to get out there and loosen up a little bit for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, that's different than going out there and putting them through skill drills for 45 minutes and then, scrimmage situations and game situations for another 45 minutes. We really backed off on that. So be careful there, because a lot of inexperienced academies still think that ice time is the key. We had a medical doctor on staff that was there every single day, and he really pushed us away from that. And it was the best thing we did as far as the development path of players. I hate that word development. To see them increase their speed on the ice, their strength, their shot making ability, all those things increase, but it's got to be in limited doses. So we started doing a shooting day. We started doing a yoga day where they would all go down and they would work on different yoga techniques. And we worked on all kinds of recovery techniques. We started teaching them how to do, recovery stretching and recovery programs. And it became, less about trying to keep up with the Joneses on how many hours of ice you had. And we had unlimited ice. Ice wasn't an issue for us. It's just you can really kill yourself in an academy if you don't find an academy that offers a well-rounded process for you to become a good athlete. So hopefully that helps. Got to put this on there too. There we go. Troy, you're the man. Okay, you're the man. Of course, it's my. I want to get my guitar out and put my aviators on and start singing some Jerry Lee Lewis songs, and then go fly my airplane. But I'm not going to do that right now. So
You should take the Tigers D and have that hat with a stash, and you'd be Tom Selleck today.
I could do that too. Then I'd still be able to fly because he's got a little buddy with a haircut with a helicopter. So both
That's
those
right.
both those work. So okay, Junie, Junie, if I can click on you, there you go. And you are on vacation, Jeff, because it looks like you're in a hotel. I am at a hotel. Okay, this is if you're in hockey, you're in hotels a lot. Okay, this is a normal background for me. What I do is I got a green screen I usually bring with me, and I put that up to make it look like I'm at home. 95% of the time you see me on here, I'm actually in a hotel room with a green screen pretending I'm at home. So Boomer will tell you that happens quite a bit.
That flat screen back there, is that just your iPhone that you have up on the wall? That little
Yeah,
guy
I was
back
going to
there?
put a beatbox up there, but that screen works pretty good. Hey Matt, come on now. You know,
Yeah,
yes,
baby.
yes,
That's what I'm talking about.
yes. He lives in Chicago. He's lived in Chicago almost his whole life, but you're going to give him credit because he hangs a little Red Wings thing on the wall and wears his D on his shirt. Okay, ask who graduated from the University of Michigan versus some high school on the west coast of Michigan. That's the biggest difference. What's that high school? Western High School of Michigan you went to, or what was that called?
Yeah, the program that normally whoops yours in hockey.
Oh, come on now. Let's not get crazy here. Let's not get crazy. I
You
had to
know
hear the
it's
same thing.
true.
I had to hear the same thing from a Ferris State guy this weekend at the reception. Uh, who used to be it's my nephew. Used to be a huge Michigan fan when he was playing Tier One hockey. And he gets his scholarship goes to Ferris, and then it turns into the hugest anti-Michigan fan out there. And you ask him why, and it's because we were a better hockey team then. Okay, you made it to the Frozen Four one time. Let's not get crazy. Okay, let's not. Let's put this into perspective. So, Matt. Okay, I get it. I get it. You guys, let me pull up Matt's comment there. Okay, so you got a little bit of a following. Let's not get crazy with that either. Okay.
But let's not also forget you're also from Detroit, so we're all in the same boat here.
That's very true. That's very true. We are all in the same boat here. But neither of us live in Detroit anymore. So, although I spent the whole weekend there, um, well, actually, I spent the whole weekend in Grand Rapids. I didn't spend it in Detroit. But in fact, I actually went to Holland for the first time and had never been to Holland before.
Oh,
And
really?
grew up in Michigan, spent a lot of time there. Still vacation in Michigan quite a bit, but we'd never been to Holland. So had a really good time seeing that area. And Grand Rapids is a beautiful town anyway, so it was fun to be there. So
So there, a quick story about Holland. I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago now, I was coaching at a different hockey program, and the level of Double A that we play at is the highest level in the country, the Central States League. I had a team that got kicked out of the Central States League at a particular birth year because we had moved 15 of our 20 kids to AAA, and they didn't think that we were going to be competitive enough. So instead of doing the second tier league here in Illinois, we joined the Little Caesars Hockey League for their Double A hockey. So by being an out-of-state team in the Little Caesars League, we had to play all of our games that season in Michigan. So for us, we did probably half of our season in Holland because it was the
well,
easiest
right.
to get to. And the rink that they have in Holland, I know you probably weren't there when you were in town, but it is probably in the top 3 coldest rinks I've ever been in my life, to the point where you almost had to wear 2 winter jackets. It was that cold.
Okay, okay. So that may be true, but here's my experience to rival that, because you need to rival anything you say. I gotta try to one up it.
Bring it on.
This is going into Hobart College. Hobart is on one of the Finger Lakes in Western New York. Hobart is a really good school, really, really good school. Great, beautiful campus. Like I said, it's on the water. Can't ask for a better looking campus. My first experience there, assistant coach. There's a head coach, two assistant coaches, and we get ready to head out for a game on the road. It's only an hour away from RIT. I was coaching at RIT at the time, and so we go, we're ready to leave, and the athletic director walks in and checks us all out. These huge football coats with the big, hoods on them, and they go all the way down to like your ankles. And I'm like, what the hell is this thing? How am I going to coach in this thing? And he had the big like Alaskan mittens, and they had the whole outfit, And I'm like, it was left over from when they used to have a football team at RIT, and they only lost the team a year or two before that. So they hand all this stuff out, and I'm like, I'm not wearing that. I got regular little zip up coat to put over my suit, got my suit pants on, my dress shoes, and I'm ready to go. The head coach shows up, and he looks like the Michelin Man. He's just it's a open rink on one side on the lake side. It's only got 3 walls, and then you got this wind blowing off the lake, and the wind was blowing off so bad that it actually would steer our players. If a player's skating down the ice, and if he just started coasting, you could see him having a fight to keep himself on the ice. So, that was the coldest I've ever been coaching, and I made the mistake. I ran back to the bus and I grabbed it, but I couldn't catch up. After I got cold, there was no catching up with just having dress shoes on. So, Holland might be cold, but lake breeze in February in an outdoor rink for a college game. Because remember, the college game, you got a full warm up.
Right.
20-minute periods. It's not a youth game like we're used to. Youth games, you can bite it a little bit and get through an hour, But when you got that 3-hour clock, it's like, oh my gosh, can we get this thing over with, So, see, I might have got him back. Might be Team Jeff now. Okay.
Matt's all over the place today. He's covering all fields.
He is. He's playing both sides. All right, folks. Anything else out there question-wise? Let's get it in. We've been going now for 50 minutes, but if you got one last question, we'll give it a shot. If not, we'll wrap it up, and we'll wait till next week, and we'll broadcast at a later time next Wednesday, and we will review the North American Hockey League draft and just talk about a little bit of the inside of the draft. Mike, prepping for the draft this week. What are you working on to prep for the draft and get ready for next Wednesday? You're going to be.
Say that again.
You're in the war room, and you're one of 4 people in the war room for an all team. What are you working on? What is it? What is it like?
Well, I think the first thing is, we use a platform called RinkNet, which you've referenced multiple times on our podcast here. So within RinkNet, we're going to have a list of probably, 100, 200 kids of kids that we're interested in. And, obviously our pre-draft camp gave us a chance to see some of those kids on the list. So some of them are moving their way up the list. Some are moving their way down. The other thing that not only myself, but more importantly, our coaching staff is doing is they're reaching out to a lot of these different players just to make sure we have a clear understanding of what their plans and intentions are. Because if there's a kid on our list that we really like and we may want to draft, but we know that player wants to go play in the BC League or wants to go play, in another league, or maybe they're on a path of maybe making the USHL. Well, that may change where they're ranked, for us and whether or not we'd actually draft them and use an asset. So a lot of those conversations are happening with the players and families themselves, with the advisors, with other people we know within the industry. So there's a ton of communication going on. And then obviously we're still watching film and trying to get a better assessment of like where the rankings are as far as who's above who and how it's going to sort out, because we may have 5 guys on our top 5. And, with where we're drafting, we're going to be at the very end of the first round. None of those guys may even be available to us if other teams end up taking them. So we just have to make sure that the list is tight and we have a good understanding of if these guys are gone, who the next guy is.
While this is all going on, the phone is ringing. We're doing our war room is virtual. It's the head coach, it's the associate head coach, it's Mike and I, and once in a while maybe the owner, that could pop in. Most likely sitting in with the coach live on his end on the virtual broadcast. So you've got 4 or 5 people, but the phones are ringing in all 4 places. And who's calling? It's advisors calling. They're getting on the phone. They're pushing players. They're saying, "Did you know this guy's available? This guy will play for you if you take him in the draft. This guy wants to play for you. Did you look at it? You really need to take this guy." This is going on constantly throughout the day, and you get the advisors, and you got to take the phone calls because you just don't know what information they can convey to you and give you about what's going on. Maybe they've got information because they just talked to another team and they're willing to share it with you. Who knows? But you always take the calls. You always want to get that information, and you always want to run with it. It doesn't mean that if an advisor calls and says take this player, we do that because we've got a game plan. We know what we want as far as what kind of player we want. We know what positions we're trying to fill in the draft and in what areas of the draft we're trying to do that. And then I can say probably that plan that you go in with only stays in place for about 60 or 70% of the draft because things change. Players get taken. You find out about other players during the draft. For a player that we may not have even looked at, maybe because we thought he was USHL bound or maybe we thought he was BCHL bound on good information, maybe that's changed for whatever the reason is, or maybe maybe it's a European player. It could be a lot of reasons. Then we're frantically trying to watch tape and watch video, pull up stats on a kid while the draft is going on. So the draft situation, as much as you plan, and we plan and plan and plan, really the whole year is about planning for this, is to get our rosters right. It gets thrown out the window a little bit as the draft goes on because your players that you like get taken and you got to go to plan B, plan C. So there's always option 1 for the first pick we have. There's option 2 for the first pick we have. There's option 3 for the first pick we have. We may not get any of our 4 or 5 first options on our first pick because other teams are ahead of us in the draft. Take those players. So it's a chess match. It's poetry in motion, and I know that is sounding a little bit cheesy, but it really is because his dance and Dan's dance and Ryan's dance and my dance. Hopefully we're on our best when this is going on, and it's fun to watch. It's really fun to watch all this work and come into a synergy that puts a roster together. So I know that every team does it differently, but that's kind of the way it works. So Mike, anything on that? And then we got to start wrapping it up here.
Well, I was just thinking of some other people that usually contact us or our coaching staff about players, and it's the colleges of kids that they've committed that they may want to make sure they're in the right spot to continue their development, and they want them to be with us or another team that they have a better relationship with. So you're having conversations with different colleges as well that are trying to push their players to you and whatnot. So yeah, to your point of the phone's always ringing, it really is, up until the point of when you're picking. And sometimes it's calls from coaches within the league that are trying to fish for information on who you're taking and which players you like, or maybe possible trades and things like that. So it's actually a lot of fun, but at the same time, if you don't have the preparation in, you could really fall out of sorts in that type of an environment.
Absolutely. And we'd be remiss if we didn't say there's a lot of interaction with the rest of our scouts on our scouting staff too during this whole process because we're verifying players. We're putting weight on them because if there's 3 players that all of a sudden got thrown on my plate that we got to find information on, Mike might do one, I might do another one. We might get one of the scouts involved to try to get some information on another player as quick as possible. So I'm sure this is frantic at every level. I know you see some war rooms at the NFL level. They go through the same thing. You watch the same thing happen in the NHL where teams are scrambling at the last second. That's what happens. And you don't know. There's trades made during the day too. You don't know if there's a trade made during the day that gives you another pick or takes a pick away from you or gives you the player you were looking for. So all those things happen. Folks, we can go ahead.
And some gamesmanship where if you're talking to kids, you want to find out how many other teams are talking to them. And if there's not a whole lot of action going on with that kid, then even though you really like them, maybe you can wait a couple rounds before you take them and then maybe take a different kid that has more teams that have communicated with them. So, sometimes you win those little scenarios and sometimes you lose them when you think you can wait on a kid and next thing you know, he gets taken and you kind of kick yourself that you made it more complicated than it probably could have been. So you live and you learn and you move on,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of that going on as well.
So Frank's got the last question of the night. I'll throw this one to you, Mike. Do they trade players that are drafted or tendered before the main camp?
They can. I mean, you would hope that they wouldn't because, these are kids that they wanted. But, there's times where maybe a kid gets drafted and a team took that player and he does not want to go there. So instead of completely losing that asset, they may put him across the league to say, hey, is anyone interested in this player? Yada, yada, yada. And a trade can happen.
Yeah,
Same thing happens with tenders. You could have a change in the coaching staff. Something could have happened at home and they want to be closer to home. There's times where that happens, but I would say that those scenarios are not normal. It's
right.
not like something that happens all the time, but it does happen.
It's rare, but it will happen. It probably happens once a year, or limited amount of times a year. I wouldn't say once, but it could happen a couple times. But it's not the norm. You are protected by that team. You are under the control of that team until after main camp. And if you don't make the final 35 after main camp, at the protected list, the summer protected list, then you're free to go back to wherever you want to go to. So a great question to end on, Frank. Hey, once again, everybody, we'll be back next week live after the draft. We'll do a 9 p.m. broadcast just to try to catch up and give you guys a sense of what's going on. Bloomer, once again, great job. Way to keep the show going. If it wasn't for you today, we would not have had a broadcast. So we'll get together. We've got lots of great news coming up over the next few weeks. Make sure you like and subscribe to YouTube. That'll be a big, big help for us, folks. Make sure you go on to Junior Hockey Live, the YouTube page. They need the support there too. All these little things are all part of the synergy we're trying to build around junior hockey. So thanks so much, folks. Have a great night, and we'll see you all after the draft next week.
Take care, everyone.